Nintendo's 2020 after Animal Crossing New Horizons and the ongoing global situation appears to be different. But after this year, with no new Switch models and probably not too many system seller titles, 2021 could shape up to be Nintendo's next 2017. That is to say, with a new Switch revision model and big system seller titles to sell it. Like Breath of the Wild 2, Mario Odyssey 2, and perhaps even more. Since there is a certain successful recipe that Nintendo seems to follow with the Switch since 2017. And in it, 2021 is shaping up to be incredible. But as always, before we get into the specifics, be sure to like this video, subscribe and hit that notification bell to not miss out of any of our future content. Less than 4,000 subscribers left to go to 250,000, so let's get there as soon as possible. Nintendo is, as we have learned the hard way, difficult to predict. They go against the grain that is PlayStation and Xbox and pull loads of surprises out of seemingly thin air, and often confuse us all to the point of giving up. However, like any successful company, there are certain patterns that simply have to be followed for either marketing, profits, good public relations, and most of all, competitive edge. We've noticed such a pattern and believe that it will lead to 2021 being the best Switch year yet. How? In 3 ways. A new Nintendo Switch model, Breath of the Wild 2 being its launch title, and finally a long list of system seller titles like a potential Mario Odyssey 2. After the Wii U failure, Nintendo learned that they need to build up their own lineups every single time they want to come out with a new Switch model. 2017 and 2019 were absolutely massive in terms of games, while 2018 was fairly silent in comparison, consisting of pretty much only Super Smash Bros. Of Nintendo's biggest system seller titles. And there's a reason for it, since we are also seeing a similar trend in 2020, the year with no new Switch models. And instead, we just had Animal Crossing New Horizons potentially being the major release of the year. Sure, we just had a mini direct, but that's the point. Nintendo didn't bring anything more than just a mini direct until the end of March. No big first-party Nintendo titles have been revealed, and so far the only thing being marketed on Nintendo's website is Shulk for the Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition Remaster, third-party games, and a long list of indie titles. All of this leads to one thing, that 2020, due to all possible factors, will likely serve as a build-up to a very hardcore 2021. Let's go through some examples of what we mean here in a more chronological presentation. Leo, go ahead.
In 2017, we had Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, ARMS, Splatoon 2, Super Mario Odyssey, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. These were massive titles absolutely exploding with hype and launching the Nintendo Switch to immediate success. In 2018, we had Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and that was really about all we got in terms of massive mainline titles. The vast majority of Nintendo's E3 presentation was literally every minor detail about the game too, clearly trying to fill in time with some details that just weren't that big in and of themselves. 2018 outside of Smash might have been a little underwhelming, but it quickly turned out that Nintendo saved everything once again for the next big hardware year, 2019. This was done with the revised model of the base model Nintendo Switch, followed by the handheld-only Nintendo Switch Lite, which launched on September 20th, the same day as the remake of Link's Awakening. In fact, in 2019, Nintendo dropped exclusive after exclusive from June to November. Super Mario Maker 2 in June, Fire Emblem Three Houses in July, Astral Chain in August, Link's Awakening Remake in September, Luigi's Mansion 3 on Halloween in October, and finally Pokemon Sword and Shield before Black Friday in November. It all aimed to take Nintendo's last year of new hardware exclusive reveals until the launch of Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, which now brings us to 2020. Nintendo knew at the beginning of this year that there is no point in launching new Switch models, as it will, whether you like it or not, be dominated by the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5's console war, a battle that Nintendo wants to stay far away from for obvious reasons. Even Nintendo's president Shuntaro Furukawa stated himself that there will be no new Switch models revealed or released in 2020. Their hardware game plan is not about 2020, but rather securing Switch sales in 2021, 2022, and 2023, as these will be the years where the 4K/8K systems will pick up speed and gain the first big party and third party exclusives that might knock out the Switch once and for all. This is of course unless Nintendo can respond with new Zelda, Mario, Monolith Soft, Metroid etc. titles that can keep up interest. Naturally, a long-term decision like this will impact what sort of software can come out to the Nintendo Switch by the end of December 2020. Then, is Animal Crossing Nintendo's big system seller of the year 2020? It might just be, although we also have Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, possibly even some Mario collections, remakes and ports, along with a new Paper Mario, the same potentially being true for Zelda with Skyward Sword HD. Let's also not forget ARMS 2 maybe being a thing after that Super Smash Ultimate DLC reveal. It is likely that some other smaller Nintendo IPs that we have not seen new installments for since the early days of the Wii U, like Pikmin, could join the 2020 fall lineup, but as we have previously stated, it looks like Nintendo, under the current situation and no E3, is in no hurry to reveal their big upcoming first-party title anytime soon. What is this all pointing at? It's pointing that Nintendo is hard at work, but just like in 2016, trying to bring a long list of games for the year after when they launch more hardware. In other words, it looks like 2021 will be the next massive year since 2017 for hardcore Nintendo.
We are of course speaking about the fabled and prophesized Nintendo Switch Pro, and along with it a number of hardcore games we could expect. 2 games on this list are already in development, the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Monolith Soft's new IP after Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Let's go over Zelda first, as this is probably the game that is furthest into development and the only one with revealed in-game footage. I think we all would love for Breath of the Wild 2 to come out this year, but there's one reason that probably shatters that hope once and for all: the history of the Zelda franchise on the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch Lite, and most likely whatever Nintendo Switch Pro ends up being named as. Or more precisely, that the Nintendo Switch hardware launches coincide on the same day as Zelda games and vice versa. Breath of the Wild on Nintendo Switch on March 3rd, 2017, Link's Awakening Remake and Nintendo Switch Lite on September 20th, 2019, and Breath of the Wild sequel and a new Nintendo Switch Pro most likely on the same day in 2021. But what are the real reasons why Nintendo should launch a new Switch model in 2021? Obviously better resolutions, most likely being able to run open world games in 1080p and in more cases also 60 frames per second in this resolution. That alone are arguments to launch Breath of the Wild on the same day as the Nintendo Switch Pro, since that way you can also market comparisons between the Nintendo Switch Pro, Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch Lite, as well demonstrating how much better Breath of the Wild 2 looks on the Nintendo Switch Pro compared to Breath of the Wild on the original Switch. Breath of the Wild's sequel is likely to, just like the original, initiate another wave of hardcore Nintendo and second-party exclusive titles. Hence, a system-selling 3D Mario title, which is likely to be Odyssey 2. Why? As Super Mario Odyssey is considered by Nintendo as a hardcore Mario title, along the likes of Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine. That claim might be debated over, but there's no doubt that Monolith Soft's new IP, with some downright stunning concept art, will definitely be one of Nintendo Switch's most hardcore exclusives. Throw in the Splatoon 3 or maybe even Mario Kart, and hardcore Nintendo has secured a perfect platform to release Metroid Prime 4 to the best sales in the entire series come 2022. These are all within the realm of reality when it comes to Nintendo seeking to bolster the hype and sales surrounding a new hardware revision, which is a very likely move in 2021 with no new Switch models in 2020, if Nintendo's past is anything to go by. However, what could we expect from a Switch Pro revision that would make it stand out from the other Switch models and also appeal to gamers thinking about whether to buy the top model Switch over Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5? Most of all, a much lower price than the 4K 8K systems, but also advantages that can justify a higher price than the base model Nintendo Switch. Features like faster loading times, the same great or even better battery, a 1080p on-dock display, higher graphical fidelity, and a stronger emphasis on the Pro controller over the Joy-Cons, as these may not be the primary bundled controllers on this potential most powerful model of the Nintendo Switch. The downfall of the Joy-Con was initiated already with the reveal of the Nintendo Switch Lite, which had no detachable controllers, HD rumble or IR camera, so it is a possibility that the Nintendo Switch Pro might come bundled with the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. After all, this hardcore system will be targeted at gamers both casual and hardcore who prefer regular controller experiences without any gimmicks. In fact, this would be a cost saver for the production of a new system, as the Joy-Cons contain rather expensive technology, and by simply bundling the already existing and brilliant Pro controller, Nintendo will also save development costs. At the same time, while still leaving the option to buy Joy-Cons separately to play more comfortably undocked, it is very likely that Nintendo might even consider retiring the Joy-Con functionality completely for new titles after this year in favor of the Switch Pro controller. say that we get a few more games taking advantage of the technology in 2020, and then stop releasing new Joy-Con, HD Rumble-centered titles from 2021, which could mean that titles like ARMS 2, Zelda Skyward Sword HD, and Super Mario Galaxy may be bound to the Nintendo Switch in 2020 for a reason. Since after this first gap year in the mid-gen cycle of the Nintendo Switch, it is likely that we will only see traditional games for the rest of the Switch's life cycle, which would make sense with the current lineup of games in development.
Regardless, does this all suddenly mean that 2020 is a year when Nintendo is just going to sit back? Of course not. Let's not forget, with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, 2020 is the year when Nintendo's competitors are bringing out the big guns. We anticipate that Nintendo might take it a little easy until the next-gen systems launch in October/November, and maybe even to December, but give them no quarter in the first half of 2021. Also don't forget, during the holiday season itself, we are going to definitely see a big sale from Nintendo, perhaps even more than years prior given the activities of the competition. It won't stop them in their tracks per se, but it'll serve to sell out the older titles before bringing their sequels and successors to the system the year after. However, these games that we have mentioned previously, Mario Odyssey 2, Splatoon 3, Mario Kart, etc., they could all benefit from having a more powerful Nintendo Switch model in the same way that the new 3DS did for its own titles. How could this manifest, however? With the 3DS you had additional buttons and even a new control stick or nub. Plus the built-in amiibo support was a big thing at the time too. However, the Switch doesn't need such features. It's all built in by default. No, benefits of the Pro for these games are likely to show best in raw game performance such as speed and loading times. Additionally, they'll likely make use of the increased capabilities to try new ideas out, maybe making the most of the Pro controller in some way. After all, don't forget that despite all the ways you can play your Switch, it can also act as a limitation to developers, causing them to make sure the game runs well on every controller setup. The Pro controller, Joy-Cons, single Joy-Con, two-player Joy-Cons, etc. With all of this comes a new opportunity, a new era of Switch games that we haven't seen before. However, with all of this extra graphical fidelity, faster loading speeds, analog triggers, etc., what about the older models? Will they be able to play these new Switch Pro games? Yes, just as what is the case between the PlayStation 4 Pro and PlayStation 4, even in their final year with titles like the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
And there you have it, a detailed video on why 2021 is looking very hardcore for Nintendo. Do you agree, or do you think some of the mentioned titles will be released in 2020? Some of them are definitely going to be revealed this year. Leave your response in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, then leave a like and subscribe and press that shiny notification bell, and again for all notifications. 250k is less than 4,000 subscribers away, so let's get there. Finally, a big thanks to all our patreon.com/commonrealm patrons, who we hope you can join by heading over to patreon.com/commonrealm, or by pressing the join button here on YouTube to become a member. Until the next video, this was the Commonwealth Realm, and please enjoy one of these two awesome videos.